Friends, gold is unstoppable. It has gone up more than 81% in the last 5 years and almost 20% in the last 12 months. It's happening. Central banks are ditching the dollar and U.S. treasuries and buying more gold. The good news, it's predicted to go up more. UBS even said it will go up to $5,000. Noble Gold Investments' phone has been ringing nonstop. Everyone wants to protect their retirement with gold, and you can do the same. Noble Gold Investments can help you secure some gold to protect your future. From day one, you work with the same dedicated all-American expert. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced investor, Noble Gold Investments will make sure you get all the help you need. And this month, Noble Gold Investments will give you a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin if you open a qualified account. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com now. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, it's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Thursday, May 2nd. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. And friends, yes, in many regards, we are winning. I'm coming to you with an audio this time. We are off the beaten path a little bit, and full video live streaming is not in the cards today. But I wanted to share something that came to me just the other night. I woke up in the middle of the night and it was like a lightning struck me, and I was reminded of this incredible theory that was floating around a few years ago, that we all died collectively in 2012 through a catastrophe, and that we have since been living in a simulation which some of these theorists call hell. And, I just went into a thought process for a little bit there as I was rethinking this theory. And I know it sounds outlandish, outrageous, but I mean, we are literally discussing so often the fabric of our reality, of the thought construct that builds this reality, of our perceptions, what we can see, what we cannot see, what we can perceive, what we can't perceive. So I don't want to just dismiss this at hand, but look at it through a few different layers. So basically, this whole theory came about because of the, I think, misinterpretation of many of the Mayan calendar, miscalculations. I don't think the dates actually lined up, but I'm not an expert in that. This is just what I have seen over the years in my research. But the sheer idea that something could have happened and that we have been, catapulted or shot into a different dimension, into a different reality, or pulled into a different matrix. I don't see this as outrageous, given the very high likelihood that we are living in a simulated reality, in a construct. And more is pointing to that. However, I don't think you can prove it while you're in it. You'd have to somehow be out of it to see it from the outside, to really, really have evidence for it. But in a more, if you will, in a more symbolic way, I think the idea that many people died and are living a reincarnated new life right now seems very plausible, just given the fact how the reality around us is dying, how our perception of reality is dying. We literally are finding out that pretty much everything is false, inverted, invented, or stretched, whatever you want to call it. There's so many ways to look at it, but we're finding out that wherever you dig, there is not a foundation of truth, but a foundation of lie. Of course, we've started this new series, The End of Religion as We Know It, and we're going to continue that in a little while here. And I think it's just one avenue to look at, what has built our societies. What is the fabric? What is the fundamental concept, the foundation that it's built on? And in most parts of the world, it is the religion that has ruled over the parts of the world for a very, very long time. So the religion is the fabric, in many ways, of our reality, and it's all breaking down. So people are realizing, some people at 20 and some at 80, that what they believed life to be, what they believed reality to be, what they believed politics to be, what they believed religion to be, and so many other things isn't true. That it was a program that was running and they were a part of it, but now they're realizing it wasn't real. So if you're realizing these things, and if you're rethinking everything in your life, everything that you think, everything that you say, everything that you do, if you're rethinking your concept of life, if you're rethinking what you've done for a living and how you thought about it, if you're doing all of this, then you're literally putting one life to death, if you will, and another life is emerging from it. So I don't think, if you go deeper, this theory is so far-fetched. Now, I mean, who's to say that in 2012, what we perceive to be 2012, we were living in a prime Earth reality? I don't think so. But I will say this. The beautiful thing about this is, for me, that it kind of gives one avenue of thinking to my own perceptions. And what I've been sharing on the air quite often is that I have experienced a plastification. That's what I call it. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but the world, in my perception, my entire reality has become increasingly more plastic, if you will, or at least the reality I'm observing, the world, behaviors, the trends. It's like we have moved more and more into a cartoonish world, and this is how I perceived it, at least since 2013, 2014, moving upward to where we're now. And it was just something that I was observing, but I never really shared it. And interestingly enough, when I heard about this theory of 2012 and that we all died, that there was a mass event and that this is a new or different simulation, I just thought, oh, that's just one other way of looking at it, and I can't dismiss it. I have absolutely zero proof or evidence that this happened or that it even could have happened. But the concept of how we perceived life back then and how we collectively perceive life has changed fundamentally. It is driving people insane. It has caused a mass extinction event. We're in the midst of a mass extinction event. On humanity's part, on a depopulation event. We're seeing a huge increase in psychological, spiritual, if you will, diseases, in a almost zombification. So there's no shortage of signs that something is dying right in front of our eyes. And individually speaking, as I said, this is, I mean, some people call it the death of the ego. I wouldn't go as far because, the ego, if you will, is also what will in any emergency event try to keep this vessel, this body alive. So there's purpose and value in the ego, as long as it's in check and it's not running you, right? It's not running your daily decisions. But the depth of these concepts, I don't think we currently talk enough about. And the reason why we need to talk about it and lay it out in the open is because otherwise this death and this unspoken experience will cause traumatic programming in our psyche, in our subconsciousness. We are not talking about the death of a system, the death of a way of life that is now inevitable. We can't go back. There's no going back to what it was. We can't return to pre-2020, pre-2016, and pre-2012 times. There's no returning. And we have yet to define or even come close to defining what is coming in the future and what we're creating. And as I've been saying so many times, we have to honor this process for what it is. We have to honor what we're going through. We have to honor our sadness, our tough moments, even our despair at times. We have to honor this tiredness because it is tiring, and acknowledge it in the moment so it doesn't become something that is suppressed and later expresses as sort of a trauma that comes up in many different ways. I think this is a chance. But at the same time, many people are still fighting it. Many people are still fighting and hanging on to the old system. They want it so badly because it's all they knew. They don't want to go deep enough, dig deep enough to accept this change. They just want to go back to what their preferred version of reality was because it felt secure. It felt like it was something that gave them a sense of safety that they could rely on, and that is gone. There's only the illusion, and it was always an illusion, but it was a very solid illusion, and now only the illusion is left. So who are we? Why are we here? What are we doing? It's all, these questions are all arising anew, and we're finding new answers, or we're returning to original answers. And we might also find out, if we follow the breadcrumbs of truth, that we truly are living in a limited, in a controlled, in a simulated environment that is not our natural environment. It's not what we were created actually to be in. That could be the case. The human spirit seems to be rebelling against this. It can't, once you connect to human spirit, you certainly can't believe in it much longer, and you start to question everything. And this is sort of a, it's a breaking with all patterns, and that is big. It's big because it pulls out the rug from underneath you, and nothing is certain any longer. And this state of flux, of uncertainty, is very uncomfortable for many people, especially when they're alone. They have no one to talk to about it, or when they talk about it, they don't feel that the other person really comprehends what they're saying. And we also have to acknowledge that there is a quite large section of the population that simply doesn't seem to possess, and I'm probably using the wrong word here, or doesn't seem to be spirited. And so they could simply be inserted characters into this reality. They have a life, they have a family, they have that, but they don't have the same spiritual quest, or even the ability to have that quest, to have that inner dialogue, to think about things to in that way, or even the inclination to do it. And so you're then, if you're trying to have these conversations with these people, it's an uphill battle and a solid steel wall. And if that is for you sort of your gauge, and if that's where you get validation from, or confirmation, or whatever, that could be very frustrating. So I just encourage you to keep that in mind. There's no need to hate on people. People have really, really hated on me for saying there are NPCs, non-player characters, in our reality. But my life experience simply shows me that there are these people that are incapable of a true inner dialogue and absolutely unwilling to have it. And it's not part of their life, their reality. They don't see any need. They follow the path that was laid out in front of them. They don't question it. They don't fight it. That's what they do. That's what it is. And it doesn't matter how obscure, how insane, or how crazy the path becomes, because they don't have an inner compass that tells them it's crazy. It's just what needs to be done. And so they're basically, like I said, they're following the program. There's no need to be hateful or anything. It's just what it is. That's my perception of it anyways. So we're in this state of flux. Many people are. And I can't tell you, just for the sake of making you feel better, that this is going to end anytime soon. I don't think we're through it. We're going to have to really pull everything apart and find the way out of this. And this is what we're doing. It's amazing. We're finding our way out of it. There is a true north for people that have a true spiritual connection. And what I mean by that is simply getting in touch with that highest part of you, that part that can connect beyond the body, beyond the mind, that is in a different sphere. And that part is sort of a true north compass. and it guides you, it leads you, it shows you the way when your mind and your brain and your body can't. And that, I think, is the greatest hope, if you will, that there is. And there's this other reality that many people are realizing, is that they have been duped and sort of misled by selling a life of perpetual bliss and happiness. And bliss and happiness are states, and they're wonderful states. But in order for you, while you're in your body, to be in a state of bliss and happiness, you have to produce an extraordinary combination of chemicals in your body. And that is an extraordinary, which means out of the ordinary, state for your body. It can't sustain these states for very long. So for you to seek constant happiness and bliss is basically trying to bring your body out of balance constantly. So the body in this realm is seeking balance, and that's when it functions the best. It's a neutral positive state, if you will. And that is the state that gives you optimum capabilities on all levels. So I think if we seek perpetual high joy, high happiness, high bliss at all times, we have fallen for a fictional story that was invented in order to keep you frustrated because you can't do it. So if you can't do it, but that's what the commercials are selling, then you will always feel like you're falling short, and you will think that you're spiritually underdeveloped and that you're not well, and you will misinterpret reality once again. I think the best state that we can seek is balance. Oftentimes that almost equates to a state of neutrality, but it allows us to be in the observer's position. And the observer chooses what he engages in or doesn't, versus the person that is so immersed always emotionally in every experience. The choice falls away. You're just in it, and you have to go with whatever emotionally comes your way, versus in a more balanced state, you choose your experiences, and you can choose to engage or disengage. And I think that is a very valuable quality in these times when so much insane stuff is floating around. So this is more a spiritual and philosophical perspective, of course, than it is a news show here. But that's what we do anyways. And in case you were just feeling off, or in case you were having similar thoughts, or in case you were just wondering what the hell this is, there are many ways to look at it. And don't despair, because the path, I think, the path to sanity, the path to reality, to a natural state of reality, goes through balance. That seems to be the eternal truth of life. Something that you find, I don't know, everywhere you search, you find a balance seems to be the key. So just observe yourself, what provides that balance for you. And I'm not talking about substances, but is it being in nature, being close to water, close to the mountains, in the forest, and seek those places or those states more often, and you will see how it will harmonize your bodily functions. It will harmonize your mind, and it will harmonize your spirit, which then allows you in turn to perceive truth in a much clearer and better way. So balance is the key to everything, and it's only in a balanced state that I would recommend to go down any rabbit holes. I wouldn't recommend diving into things when you're emotionally charged, when you're triggered, and when you're just out of whack, because it only gets worse from there as we're, dissecting some of the most horrible truths and some of the most horrible crimes. We need to be very, very balanced. Healing, once again, is the key. I encourage you all. The healing of our consciousness, the healing of our spirit, the healing of our psyche is literally the key the key that many people unfortunately are still missing. So I would encourage you to find the modality, find the practitioner that would be best for you. You can go to our website, theinspiredchannel.com, and click on healing, find out more there. You can also visit a website like thejourney.com, founded by Brandon Bass. We're not affiliated with Brandon and the Journey healing modality, but we have we learned it ourselves. We know how to do it. We've done it many, many times, and we believe it's one of the most powerful modalities out there for deep trauma healing in general, physical or psychological, spiritual. And I would recommend that everyone seeks out a practitioner or a healing modality. It will change your life in ways that you cannot imagine. And last but not least, in this reality, in this realm, and in our society, I have never met a person that hasn't experienced some sort of trauma. Most remain unhealed because we're not taught what trauma is. We're not taught what these trauma events are, and we don't have any current cultural modalities to deal with it. It's been removed from our culture. So you don't have the sweat lodge, you don't have the ceremony, you don't have the prayer circle that actually acknowledges the pain when it just, when it's fresh, when it's there, that acknowledges the hurt and the mending, the healing, and has a modality for it. And if you don't have it, it's basically like, it's basically like having wounds or injuries all the time and never tending to them, and just you break a bone and you don't do anything. You don't try to put it back in the right place. It all doesn't heal very well, and it causes big problems down the line. And that is exactly what happens with our spirit and our psyche as well. So again, you can go to our website, theinspiredchannel.com, click on healing, find out more, or go to thejourney.com and find out more, or find another modality, another practitioner, another way. But please, I would encourage you, this is the most important thing for your life and for the collective evolution, if you will. All right, my friends, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being with us again. We love you. We appreciate you, and we'll be back with you again very, very soon.